Well, hello everyone, and welcome in. Well, today's the day we get to start a new project. We're going to cut some plastic off the sprue, we're going to glue some parts together, we're even going to do a little bit of painting. Now, let's just see what it is that we're going to be working on. The next project is on its way. Let's get started. Well, here we go. The unboxing scene. This gets a lot of views and clicks, so I have to put this in. Just kidding. Seriously, we're going to be working on the M3 Lee, and this is the Australian version, and it's from Mini Art, and it is also the interior kit, which means, yes, it has an interior, and it also means it has a lot of parts. Look at the size of that package. So let's do the thing that all unboxings do, and let's look at some of the instructions. We got some color plates right here, and we've got a whole bunch of steps. And as I flip through this little booklet of instructions, I think it's page 14 and step something like 70 before we ever start getting to the exterior of this kit. So a lot of work on the interior. And I continue to flip the pages to the instructions here, and I can see the final construction photographs, and then at the end of the booklet we have some color plates, and these are all of Australian version tanks, but I won't be using those because I have something different in mind. Open up the plastic, let the sprues fall free, and boy, there is a lot of plastic and a lot of parts here. This is going to be, well, this might be a little bit time consuming. I'll have to get organized. I'll also be using some metal barrels from RB Barrel. I have some Valentine tracks from AFV Club, and you'll see why in just a moment, and some new decals from Echelon. So I've got this little feature film here. I think will explain where we're going with this project. Stay tuned, I'll see you on the other side.
East and west. Mandalay Hill, a Buddhist holy spot and used as a key observation post, is brought under artillery and tank fire. After capture of the hill, British and Indian troops with tank support move up for an attack on Fort Dufferin in the heart of the city. Frontal attack fails to break through the walls and moats surrounding Fort Dufferin. A battalion, supported by tanks firing point blank at the main gate, smashes against the fortifications. It's holed up and barricaded behind the wall, drive the attackers back with machine gun fire. Several of our tanks are knocked out in the action. Flanking movements feel out weak points in enemy positions. The fort is fanatically defended in a 12-day siege. Fall of Fort Dufferin and Mandalay takes place 20th March after almost 3 years of Japanese occupation.
I hope you enjoyed that little feature film presentation, and it's a good setup as to what the focus is for this new project. I hope you paid attention to all the Lees that were running around in those scenes, because that is going to be the subject of this project. In particular, we're going to be working with C Squadron of the 150th Regiment RAC, Royal Armored Corps, which were attached to the 19th Indian Infantry Division as they moved into Mandalay. As shown in the newsreel, the period between the 8th and the 10th of March 1945, the 150th Regiment took part in the assault of Fort Dufferin. Now this fort, held by the Japanese forces, was a walled enclosure of about 1 square mile surrounded by a 40-foot moat with walls of up to 30 feet thick and 20 feet high. And as the British history describes the fort, quote, "It was a fortress of great strength." The fortress was breached during the attacks on March 10th, when under the cover of smoke and heavy artillery and tank support, troops of the 19th Indian Division were able to successfully cross one of the 5 bridges that spanned the moat and breach the walls. However, upon their entry into the fortress, the Allies soon realized that many of the Japanese defenders had successfully escaped during the battle. Okay, let's get down to the nuts and bolts of this project. I'd mentioned before, I'll be using the Australian version of the M3 Lee. And the reason for this is, as when the British sent their M3 Lees to the Far East, they made modifications and removed the commander's copula, I don't know how to say that word, the 30 caliber mount on the top turret. And the Australian version has that same turret. Now, that's not to say that the Australian version in the kit is going to provide everything I need for the British version that was in the field. Speaking of field modifications, that's what's going to be great about this project and these particular Lees. Well, first thing you might notice is the extra armor protection to the rear of the vehicle, and that is said to be cannibalized Stuarts. that they used just to up armor the rear end of their vehicles. Secondly, there's a small armor plate above the road wheels in the center of the vehicle. And then, of course, there's all the added track armor to the front of the vehicle. And that's where the Valentine tracks come into play. Okay, well, that was a long introduction. But we have the stage set now, and we can start actually building this model. As you can see, the hull is a multi-piece hull, and the only trick here really is just to make sure you get things lined up and flat, just so you don't have any issues later on, so that everything's nice and square. If you've watched any of my prior videos, especially the Panzer II, which had a bit of an interior in it, you know that I'm not really gung-ho enthusiastic about interiors. Obviously, most of it won't be seen in the end, and so, well, it's a little disheartening. But I have to say that the mini art kit here, the interior on this Lee, well, that is really something else, in that it has, well, quite a bit of detail, and it certainly looks the part. So if you're into doing interiors, this is certainly a kit that's well worth taking a look at. And for the super detailers, I think it makes a great platform where you could add extra plumbing and wiring really to make it look like it should. Leave off one of the sides and have a cutaway view. This would be quite the nice kit. And while I'm not going to go overboard and do some super detailing on this kit interior, I am going to give it some love. And that means assembling the parts as they come in the box and painting it out in a, pretty decent manner so it looks the part. I add a little bit of weathering love using filters and light washes just to help highlight and bring out some of those surface details. While I'm waiting for some paints and thinners to dry, I flip a few pages ahead in the instructions and I see where the next steps start to work a little bit on the exterior. We start adding some of the sidewalls, and so before I do that, I decided to go ahead and enhance the already really nice cast texture on the hull. Not only does the mini art kit include the crew compartment and fighting compartment interiors, it also includes the power plant. And while working with the engine compartment, it brings us our first little piece of photo etch in the form of this little screen. As usual, when I'm working, especially with screens, I like to blacken them with metal burnishing fluid first, just to darken their color, so I don't need to add very much paint later on to clog the little screen openings, or if the paint doesn't cover, I don't have any exposed brass showing. I don't really think there needs to be a lot of explanation of what's going on here. It's just more of the same. Snipping parts off the sprue, sanding them, getting them painted, and then installing them into in this case, the interior of the vehicle. For those of you keeping track, we are on page 15 and step 62, which brings us to starting to add the upper hull or the sidewalls onto the vehicle. From here on out, we're starting to button her up. You can see that Mini Art's philosophy is to use a number of parts to make up a structure. For instance, I could see where these sidewalls and this front would be one piece in mini kits, but similar to the lower hull, the upper hull is comprised of multiple pieces that need to be glued together and aligned. Now, the nice part about this is that actually it fits really, really well. So just, a little bit of glue, a little bit of pressure just to hold in place. So as long as you got those opening steps at the very, very beginning when we were doing the lower hull, as long as those are straight and square, you should have no problem with alignment coming up forward as you move higher and higher on the vehicle. Well, as you can see, it's starting to close in. I'm getting the sidewalls, and next is going to be to add the rooftop here. And I have to say, I'm a little bit sad because even though I didn't spend a lot of time on that interior, it doesn't look bad. And it kind of makes you think, well, that would be fun to go ahead and do one of these that might have a cutaway and really deck it out and really do something special on the interior. Maybe that's a future project. We'll see. But again, here we go. We're going to close up that big radial engine, never to be seen from again. And now the top of the cabin is installed as well. And so once again, all that work that will never be seen, but of course, we all know it's there, right? Okay, not only are we going to button up the Lee, but I think we're going to button up this episode as well. Well, the next episode is going to be really concentrated on the exterior, and there's going to be quite a bit of scratch building. Well, not a lot, but we're going to add all those little extra details that we saw in those images, and maybe get ready to paint. Not sure how far we're going to get. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help the video get to more folks, and there also is a bell you can hit to allow you to know when new videos are released automatically. I will also let you know that I do have a Patreon page, and the link for that is below in the description. If you like this channel and the content and would like to consider supporting it, that is the method to do that. As a subscriber, you get early news. For instance, they knew about this project a week ago. I do some tutorial videos, high-resolution photos of the projects as they're being built, and we have a message board which is open for chats, and we have quite a nice conversation going back and forth on many different subjects. And so until next week, happy modeling. Thanks, guys.